Hi everybody, it's Julie Ebersole for ellenhutson.com. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I'm going to be doing an easy wreath building technique. I'm going to be working with the brand new Over the River stamp set from the holiday release. And I've got all my images. I've just chosen a few of them for this particular project, and I've got them loaded into the lid of my Mini Misty. And I'm going to be stamping onto some 140-pound Canson watercolor paper that I've cut down to a quarter sheet. I'm inking up with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne. I love this ink for water-based coloring mediums because it's bleed-proof and it's a nice, rich, saturated black, and I get nice, crisp impressions with it. Now, because I'm only working with a few images and I thought, I might as well be productive later on, I'm going to stamp twice, just rotating the paper, and this way I will have extra images that I can use later on for another project. And I've also got these little trees that I've mounted to some acrylic blocks on their own. I'm going to ink up with some Catherine Pooler water-based dye ink. I love Catherine Pooler inks. This color is called Eucalyptus. It's a nice green ink. It's kind of a mid-tone green. And again, I'm going to rotate my paper here so I can fill more of that space with those trees. I don't know really how many of the trees I'm going to need for this, so I thought I might as well stamp a bunch and then I'll have them at the ready instead of going, oh, I need more trees and having to get those out again. So now I'm going to start coloring everything, and I'm working with the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, and I just scribbled that against a dry acrylic block, and I'm going to pick up the color with my Pentel Aquash and just load that color onto my stamped images. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I wanted to get a real soft wash. I wasn't sure how intense I wanted that to be, and I used a dark gray, and this is better than using a black marker because sometimes black is made up of a whole bunch of different colors pigmented into the dye that you really don't see until water is applied and you start to dilute it. And when I first tried a black marker, I ended up with some purple hues, and I didn't want those purple hues. So I switched to the gray, and I noticed there was not that problem. So something to be aware of when you're trying to color something with a dark brown or a dark with black. And sometimes those colors, the other colors that are embedded into that dye will show up just when you start to apply water. So just something to be aware of. So now I'm using a scarlet red to paint the roofline of my houses. And then I cleaned off my brush against my scratch paper, and those trees that I stamped already in green ink, I am just going to bleed that ink out because it is a water-based ink, and I can just take my wet brush there and just go right over the top of that. I do clean off my brush by swiping it against some typing paper there to clean off the previous color. And so once I have my trees watered out there a little bit to create that whole watercolor effect, I'm going to rotate the paper and do the same process to the other trees. And once they're done, I'm just going to pick up the scarlet marker. I decided I wanted a deeper, darker red. So now I'm going to color directly onto the watercolor paper with this, and this will give me the deeper shading that I wanted along the roof line and the door, etc. on the little house. I'm going to set that aside to dry while I get ready to work on the wreath. Now, I've taken a pine branch from this set and mounted it to an acrylic block, and I've got I think it's a 2¼ inch circle die, but you can use anything that'll give you roughly the size circle that you need. And I'm just going to use a pencil to trace the outline there inside onto my card front. And I'm working on a base card of a Neenah Solar White 110 pound. Now, my pencil line was a little bit dark, so I'm going to erase it just a little bit. I just need it faintly enough to work as a guideline for me. You may not be able to see it on camera. So now I've got my little pine branch, and I'm going to ink that up with some green tea ink. I know, green tea. It's like, ooh, so yummy. I want to drink it, but I'm not gonna. So now I'm going to stamp at 12 o'clock, and then I'm going to rotate it and stamp at 6 o'clock, and rotate the paper again, stamp at 9 o'clock, rotate it again, stamp at 3 o'clock. So it helps me to think of this in terms of a clock. Once I've got those 4 impressions made, I can go around, rotate the paper, and just fill in the gaps. And this is a great and easy way to make a wreath that's going to look circular shaped instead of trying to eyeball it. So if you have any small images, this works really great using this technique. And it's super, super quick and easy because you've got your stamp mounted to an acrylic block so you can move pretty fast. Now I'm just going to go in and add a little bit more filler because I thought my wreath looked a little bit sparse, and that's fine. I'm going to kind of tilt the stamp at various angles because I want to get kind of a natural, I don't want a perfect circle shape. I want it to look kind of natural. So I'm just going to go ahead and alter the position of that stamp just a little bit and not worry about it being perfect. And I think this gives you a much more realistic effect when you're finished. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and take some washi tape, and I'm going to take a piece and roll it up, stick it inside my card. This will anchor down the front of my card because when I'm working on mounting all these images, it really drives me nuts when the top pops up. So I've taken care of that, and I'm using these thin 3D foam squares to put pop-up adhesive there on the back of all of my die-cut images. I ran over to my Gemini Junior and just die-cut everything out and got the adhesive already on there so it's ready to go. Now you notice I had to trim some of them down, and there's a reason for this because I'm going to be creating multiple layers so that some things are at different heights than others. So I'm starting at the back, and I've got a single layer of these 3D thin foam dots on the back, and that's going to be kind of like the base for everything else. And then when I mount the house, I put a double layer of this foam dot on the back, and I did trim it down because I just want it to cover half, the bottom half of this house, but it is going to project that house a little bit higher, so it creates that illusion of more depth and everything, more dimension. So now, as you can see, I ran my tweezers behind it. I've got enough clearance there that when I mount these trees, and I put just a little bit of adhesive there on the side of those, they're going to get mounted and nestled right behind the house. And that's why I didn't put any foam tape on the top of the house in back of it, so that I could slip those trees in, right inside behind them. And there's adhesive on the left-hand side so that it can lay flush against those mountains and then sit right behind that house. And I'm going to repeat the same thing with another trio of trees on the right-hand side. And then I've got one single tree that I thought would be cute in front of the house. So I've got a double layer of foam tape on that. I'm just going to nestle it right there beside the house. And it just gives this whole idea of depth and dimension to the scene. And then I've got my banner down there below saying Happy Christmas. And just to finish it off, I'm going to grab some stickles in the diamond color. I love diamond stickles. This is like my favorite stickles. Well, I love stickles, period, but this color is so awesome because it can go with just anything, and it's super, super sparkly. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the caps of the mountains, and then I'm going to go ahead and start dotting voraciously over the front of my card. I'm just going with a band in here because I wanted to create the illusion where it's tighter up at the top, and then as I get down towards the bottom of the card front, I'm going to soften up and spread them out so it looks like a heavier snowfall at the top. And I love the sparkle that this gives. It's super fun, super easy. We've got all the supplies listed down below in the video description and also over at the blog at ellenhutson.com. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give us a thumbs up. You can see more papercraft videos by subscribing to the Ellen Hutson channel here on YouTube or by clicking on the photos below. Thanks for watching.